Good morning and welcome back to Trinidad and Tobago. Well, we continue with the program and it is time for a much anticipated Tobago segment. Actually, we have two Tobago segments this morning, so you can look forward to that. We're talking about the World of Work program. We understand that registration is open for this annual World of Work program. And joining us from Tobago to tell us all about this amazing initiative, we have the program coordinator, Department of Youth Affairs, Julian Skeet. Good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having us this morning.
It's a pleasure. You know, at a time like this when we are talking all about the economy and that sort of thing, here it is, this program, World of Work emerges. We're very excited to talk about it. What exactly is the World of Work program?
Well, the World of Work program is a program for us within the Department of Youth Affairs in the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs that would have been established in 2009. The focus of the program looks at training, opportunities to practice at interviews and job placement through the work that we do within the context of the department, and our target is young persons and students aged 16 to 18.
Wow, it sounds amazing. What sort of impact over the years that this program, you would say, this program has had on young people between these ages?
Well, what we have recognized is that since we've started the program to date, we've impacted just over 600 young persons. And of course, we want to add to that in this year with approximately 100 participants. For us, the impact has been very significant because what we find is that from as early as March or April of this year, we had young persons contacting us in the department to indicate their interest in the program well before registration opened in July.
What led to this initiative?
Well, I think what we would have recognized is that on the job market, we have young persons that come through the education system. And while they, get the academic qualifications and they are also trained in terms of the skill area, we recognize that they don't always have what is required in order to secure the job. And therefore, we felt that if we were to start at an early age to give them that opportunity, to give them that information and to give them that training, that they will be better equipped to present themselves to secure the job.
So in what areas is training offered?
All right, for us, training is offered in a number of areas. The training period would usually last for a week. We have 2 sessions per day. So training occurs in areas such as cover letters, applications, resume writing, treating, of course, with young person in terms of financial management, learning the various skills for investment. We teach young persons in areas such as etiquette, conflict management, stress resolution, treating with stress as well. For us, what we look at is general areas related to the world of work, but we also provide training that, is in line with building their capacity in relation to life skills.
Wow, it's well thought out. I understand that you have something called the 1-month agenda. What is this all about?
All right. Well, how that works for us is that on the 23rd, the training starts the 23rd of July, and that period would last for a week. Now, after the young persons have gone through training in the various areas to help equip them, some of them being exposed for the very first time, we put them through interviews. Of course, because of the number of persons and participants, approximately 100, we usually would set up just about 10 interview panels with about 2 to 3 persons conducting interviews. Now, when the young persons would have gone through the interviews, we then facilitate another assessment to see how much they have learned, what they understood, and then we proceed into the first 3 weeks in August, where we place them into the job market. That's between both the private sector and the public sector. Within the last few years, we have had the private sector as well in Tobago come on board, and we want to say thank you very much for that. So they are placed within the Tobago House of Assembly divisions, and they are also placed in the private sector. And following that, in the 4th week in August, we proceed to the graduation and closing ceremony, where we really recognize the excellence and outstanding performance of our young persons.
So who are some of the names that you can call in terms of the facilitators of this training program?
All right. Well, for us, we are looking at persons, for example, one of the entities we had come on board with us from 2016 and 2017, and we look forward to again in 2018, is the Mount Pleasant Credit Union as one of the institutions, financial institutions here in Tobago. And we would normally have the general manager of the Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Louis Charles, as one of the persons that would look at our areas in relation to financial management and investment. You may know the well-known Lara Quentrell Thomas, of course, the owner and CEO of Regency Recruitment. She also assists us with some of the support areas in terms of training, specific to, the do's and don'ts in relation to cover letters, resume writing, and looking at the broad area of how we support our young people to present themselves better.
So this initiative is designed with an aspect, a training aspect, and you also have, is there a practical aspect as well?
Yes. So the training lasts for 1 week, which is from the 23rd. And following the interviews, the practical aspect is where we actually place them into the workspace. So that's where we partner with the public and the private sector with the job placements.
Also, you actually get jobs for these young people. Are all of them guaranteed to get?
Well, yes. Because what we do is when they submit their registration form, we actually ask them on the forms to give us an indication of what their career interest is. And therefore, what we do now is immediately when registration closes tomorrow, my team is already collating and we are looking through to see the various employers that we have not yet contacted that we need to, based on seeking to get them to come on board in an effort to provide job placements. And through the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, we also pay stipend to the participants in conjunction with our main sponsor that has also come on board, Mount Pleasant Credit Union.
Now, you mentioned some of the areas that you'll be focusing on in terms of training, workplace etiquette. How important is that?
Well, we've found that that's very critical because, it's commonly said that the workplace is a very dynamic environment, especially now. And young persons sometimes, they want to bring their style to the workspace. So what we try to really teach them is the critical aspects and the critical components. And really you try to show them if you use, a different approach, you can yield so much more in terms of your opportunity to grow and develop, as well as contributing to the organization that you're a part of. So we think it's a very essential area in terms of training.
Also financial literacy and young people. Enlighten us a bit. Why the need to focus on this?
Well, I think one of the things we would recognize when the program was initially started, the primary focus was on just looking at areas specific to work. And then we thought to ourselves, in preparing young people for work, ultimately we're preparing them for life. And hence the reason why we would have looked at areas such as financial management, because one would know when you move out an environment where, parents and family members are responsible for taking care of you, so to speak, and you enter the world of work, there is a tendency, if you don't have the practice of savings and understanding it, that really there's a possibility that you can live from month to month. I always tell people years ago, I was guilty of that. I didn't know where my first month's salary or second month's salary went when I now started to work. And therefore we felt that this was one of the areas to be looked at, and we've had a very good response thus far, because we go even one step further. Apart from the training for the young persons, we support them by virtue of making the stipend payments by way of an account where we encourage them to invest and also have some of the funds readily available.
It's interesting that you brought that up. It just reminded me, my very first salary, the first thing that I bought was a blown-up swimming pool, one of those inflatable swimming pools. So there we go.
So I suppose based on all of our experiences, we recognize the need to provide greater support to our young persons.
Now, would you say that there is also a focus on inspiring entrepreneurs?
Oh, yes, definitely. One of the segments that we'd also looks at leadership, entrepreneurship, and motivation. And we do a combination where we've recognized that the benefit of those who have gone before in the program, because I indicated the program has been in existence from 2009, we bring back past participants, those who have gone off to university, those who are now working within Trinidad and Tobago. In other words, we look for our success stories and those outstanding ones, and we bring them back, because what we find is the young persons are even better able to relate to someone who has just left the program 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
Now, it's interesting that I'm seeing conflict resolution as one of the areas of focus as well in society, where we talk about road rage and that sort of thing. Why the need to focus on conflict resolution? How important is it really?
Well, we've recognized that in the workspace, and in fact, not just limited to the workspace, whether you're at university, you're at school, conflict is something that will occur naturally. And sometimes the challenge is we think persons aren't always fully aware of how to respond to conflict. And that's why I want to believe that we have the kind of challenges, as you mentioned, in terms of, transition into the kind of adults that we become on the road and so on. So we are of the opinion that if we begin to give young persons the necessary skills to gain a better understanding of how to deal with conflict, the hope is that when it arises, because we know that it will, we will have a more positive response in treating with it to ensure a better outcome.
What takes place after the training component? Do you receive any sort of certification?
Oh, yes. For us in the program, we would have been able to develop it over the years. And by the time they would have gone through the training area, the interviews and the job placement, the full focus of the graduation and closing ceremony is really to provide the necessary certification to a young person that gives a clear indication that they have been involved in a training program, they have been involved in job placements, and in fact, in some instances for them, they have gone through their very first interview in life, which is, of course, of many to come, because the generation, of course, is very dynamic and continually looking at various job opportunities.
And when does training begin? What about registration? Is it open?
Right. Registration is open at the moment, and registration closes tomorrow, Friday the 13th. Upon the close of registration, of course, we do our sorting through in terms of selection of the 100 participants for this year. Then within next week, we contact our participants, and the training for us starts on the 23rd of July. So that week of the 23rd would be the week of training. Then we conclude that week with the interviews. And then, of course, they get a few days off, and then we proceed into the beginning of August for 3 weeks. That's where we will be actually placing them into the workplace to, to expand on what they have learned.
Would you be able to give us an idea of how affordable this package is?
Well, for us, I think as a division, and this is one of the areas where I would want to commend the Secretary for the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, Assemblyman Joe Mopit, and the administrator. There's a clear recognition of the significance of this program in terms of youth development, and really contributing to how we help our students to become better citizens. And therefore, I suppose in that context, it is considered money well spent and value for money, and we are able to do it at a very affordable rate.
Wonderful. And any plans to bring it to Trinidad at all?
Well, we're always in discussions with the ministry, so we are very much open to looking at ways in which we in the Division of Sport and Youth Affairs can obviously connect with the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs in any related program, because we have a very good working relationship.
All right. And your closing comments, and is there a number to call for further information?
Well, we just want to let persons know that today, and of course even tomorrow, you can collect forms at the Department of Youth Affairs, Division of Sport and Youth Affairs, and we're now located at Orange Hill, which is next to Yachts Marketing, the Janice Solomon building. You can also get forms online via our Facebook page, Department of Youth Affairs Tobago, or via the Division's Facebook page, Division of Sport and Youth Affairs. So we encourage persons to register. Telephone contact, if you want to get on to us, is 612-DSYA. So that's 612-3792.
Mr. Ski, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us this morning. Indeed a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
We've been chatting with Julian Skeet, Program Coordinator, Department of Youth Affairs, chatting with us about the annual World of Work. The one-month agenda will be held from July 23rd to August 30th. It will host 100 secondary school students between the ages 16 to 18. Training will be held at the Division of Community Development Conference Room at the Shore Park Complex between the hours of 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just to remind you, for more information, you can contact the Department of Youth at 612-3792, extension 1006 or 1030. Well, here are the details of the day's market activity on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange.